Hey guys, and welcome to IndyStry. My Unreal Engine 5 course for creating photorealistic nighttime city environments for cinematics is now out, and you guys can go check it out for free. And the link for that you can find in the description. But before you do that, I would highly recommend that you pause the video and go watch the course's trailer video that I posted some time ago. The link for that is up top here in the corner or down in the description. The course's trailer is actually my short film Neon Vice, which was the direct end product of the actual course. So if you went in and followed the course all the way through, that's the kind of result that you can expect to have by the end. And if you've already watched it, then let's just jump right in and go through the details of how the course came to be, what all you can expect in the course, some important key information that you might need to have a smoother course experience. But with all that said, let's get started. So, like for all things, the first step is usually the inspiration, and the inspiration for this course came about from my previous short film called Neon Sins, which was made for Kitbash 3D's contest from some time ago and won the second prize. Link to watching this short film can also be found in the top right corner here or down in the description below. It garnered a lot of attention and was widely loved by a lot of you guys, so thank you so much for all the love and support. And a lot of you wanted to know how it is that I built the city up. And since there were a ton of requests for the breakdown, and while the video breakdown was being planned as a part of some kind of an elaborate course, I didn't really have an idea at that time, but I just wanted to make something in a video format. But at the time, I was fortunate enough to be featured on 80LV or 80 level, where I wrote a massive, super long article that goes down in depth and tells you how I created the entire city step by step. This article was actually the thing that then caught the attention of the education team over at Epic Games, and then began the journey to partner with them and bring you guys the same thing, the super long detailed breakdown, but in a video format, in a course with some changes and updates on how to do this in UE5, because it was originally Neon Sins was created in UE4. So now, because my first short film, Neon Sins, was created as a part of Kitbash's contest and it used Kitbash 3D's free kit, Neo City Kit, we then reached out to Kitbash 3D and asked them if they would like to collaborate with us for the course, and they were more than happy to join us in this mission to bring you guys free and high quality educational material for Unreal Engine. So I am super thankful for Kitbash 3D for allowing us to do that. And once we got both the teams on board, then began the months and months long process of creating an outline for the course, writing the scripts, and then just many hours of just raw recordings. And then after the recordings were done, they went through the editing phase, they got edited and finalized, and here it is. Now the course is ready. So now that we are done understanding how the course came to be, let's jump into the next part where we will understand what is inside the course and just get into a full in-depth breakdown. So to start off, the most important part is that the course that I originally created is now split into two courses. The first one is the main course, and then the second one is a supplementary course to the main course. The first course is called Designing Photoreal Environments for Cinematics, as you can see on your screens. The second one is called Supporting Photorealism Through Cinematics, which you can find at the bottom here. So if you click on that, it will take you to the second course's link, and if you go at the bottom of that one, you can find the first course there. So they're both connected to each other. So let's jump in and see what modules do we have in each of the course. In the main course, we have a total of 12 learning modules if you ignore the overview, introduction, and conclusion modules. So in the first module, if you see here on the left side, if you click there, it brings you into asset preparation. Hello? It brings you into asset preparation. This is where we will be taking a look at creating a new project and procuring the Kitbash 3D kit. In the course itself, I'm showing how to download it from the site, but for your easy access, the actual kit is available on the course's main page right here, or even down here. You can see in the useful link section, you can find this link here. If you click it, you'll find it takes you to the Epic Games Dropbox-esque page where you can find all the course materials. But here you can find the NeoCity kit. So we don't really have to follow the method that we see for downloading there, because Kitbash Radio was generous enough to provide us the kits to host. But now that you have the kit, once you download it, the process is exactly the same. You unzip it and then you can just follow along the exact same way as it's shown in the course. Then once we're done with that, we open up and create a new project and bring in all of our material from the main Kitbash 3D project over to our project. And in this one, we will also tweak some of the important project settings that are required in order to get started with the course. So just to set up the project essentially. In the second module, we will actually take a look at understanding what type of city layouts exist out in the real world, and then using that information and knowledge to do a basic blocking of the city. So here you can see I'm just going in and showcasing the different examples of city layouts that exist, and once we learn through what they are, now we have a better understanding of the kind of layout that we will pick for the course, and then start doing a basic layout where we can start having the ground planes on which the city will be built. Then over in the third course module, we will take a look at doing the actual placement. This is where we will learn about foliage tool settings and just manually adjusting the foliage tool layout once we have painted the foliage in order to start building a more cohesive city. So it's mostly about understanding the foliage tool itself and then adjusting and what to look out for when you're adjusting the layout. Then in the next module, we will take a look at what it means to have luminance and chrominance in the night window texture. So because it's supposed to be a nighttime environment, the windows need to have lights into the actual window panel. And to understand real life references of what usually city windows look like and how we can create a material for that in order to replicate the effect and have parameters that you can control after the fact. So that is what that module takes you in. And then towards the end, you'll also learn about UV mapping, just the buildings that you get in this kit. This might be different for the different Kitbash kits or any other buildings that you might use, but this is specifically for this kit, and how to UV map so that once you assign the texture, it goes exactly onto the windows. Then in the next module is where the actual heavy work of creating the material happens. This is where we will go in and start creating our master material for the nighttime windows, and we will build a lot of parameters so we can tweak it. You can see here on the right, like you can go in and tweak a lot of different things to make different variations and instances of the same material, so you can customize it and the buildings don't really look exactly identical. And you also have the option to then pump in different images, and the images again will be provided inside of this source files folder. I'll get into that more in another section of the video, what's contained in this source file folder, but just know that the textures that you see in the course will be present there in that folder. So once we are done creating this material, that's when we will now start going over and adding the same material to the ground plane as well to create more detailed ground. In the next module, we will take a look at creating blinking lights. Now, this is something important to start. It's going to be the first step towards breathing life into the city, and we're going to go through some of the math nodes that come with Unreal Engine's material editor, what exactly they do, how to visualize them, and then build a material that obviously is blinking, but not just like a simple on and off blink, having some customization in there so that the blinking can be adjusted overall, and it's a little bit random as you apply it through the city. Now, something to keep in mind is that if you want to make the blinking lights even more random and detailed, remember to check out the last module of the second course. So if you go over to the supporting photorealism through cinematics course, there are 3 modules here: cinematic camera movement, camera shake, and rendering. So if you watch the rendering course here, there is a beginning section where I actually talk about making the blinking lights material a little bit more advanced so you can have more customization of where the blinking happens. And I would recommend that you go also check that out. If your goal is to just create the blinking material, you'll find a better way of doing that towards the end. But that's what this entire module is, just understanding the math nodes and then creating the blinking materials. In the next one is the one where we will take a look at first the road video footages. So contrary to what a lot of people might think, that the roads are actual 3D roads with 3D traffic, there are ways to do that, and Matrix City Demo is obviously a great example of creating actual 3D traffic. But what I find is when you're trying to just create establishing shots for your city, shots that are high up looking down towards the city, this approach that is shown in the course is way better, and you can get away a lot more with realism that can be pumped in really fast, rather than going in and creating the actual roadways and then creating all that little details and little grunge on the streets, or different lights, like these super tiny lights coming in a city street, and then getting in the traffic, the way traffic flows, the way like, it is doable, but it will take a lot more time. This course is more aimed towards having high quality cinematics for aerial shots, like I said in the beginning in my course trailer, where I explained that this is for those drone type shots or helicopter shots where you're establishing your city. So we're going to be using existing drone road video footages. Again, these have been stabilized for you, so you can find them in the source files folder here. And once you bring them into Unreal Engine, we're going to take a look at the media player pipeline, how this works, and how to get the video planes inside the actual editor to start then readjusting the layout of the city, so that you almost think of your roads as rivers that are flowing between mountains. So you have to adjust your mountain elements a little bit in order to build a cohesive city. So the roads aren't just placed anywhere, they're placed the way, like in the very early on module where we took a look at real life city examples, that module was there so that you can come back and understand, oh, now I'm building my city, this is where the roads have to be if I'm following a certain city layout. So once we're done importing the road footage, in the next module is where we will take a look at creating a material for these, so that you have some alpha control as to how intense you want the alpha of the road to be, whether you want it to be a solid alpha, creating switches in the parameter, and then just again readjusting the layout and spreading it across the entire map. In the module after that one is where we will take a look at city signages. So this means any kind of advertisements or billboards or holograms or whatnot that you're going to put in. But before you do that, you have to understand how it works in real life, the different types of billboards or signages that exist in real life, and then creating those inside of Unreal Engine. So in the beginning, you're going to take a look at that and understand that. And then we're going to go in again for this. An FBX file is needed, which again can be found in the source files folder here. And then ingesting that, and then using Kitbash's texture that they have provided with the NeoCity kit on how to spread these billboards and what kind of rules to keep in mind when you're spreading them, so they're not just anywhere and everywhere. There is some sort of, it's almost like organized chaos. So once we're done with the static signs, this is when we move on to the animated signs, and this is where we take a look at ingesting WebP files, or basically GIF files essentially, or GIF, however you pronounce it, to inside of Unreal Engine using a utility by Neil Fang. Again, huge shout out to Neil Fang for creating this utility. I will again later, when we talk about the source files folder down in the video, you can look at the chapters. I will mention more about what the plugin does and where to find it and set it up and all of that. But that's what this module is about, just creating the materials needed for the animated signs, and then creating different material instances for the different signs that exist and how to scatter them to the city. Again, using some grouping rules on how to put the signs, where to put them for maximum visibility and stuff like that. So in the second last module is where we actually take a look at lighting. This is where we will, again, like all the previous modules, we will begin by understanding real life city lighting at a larger scale. A lot of times lighting individual little areas might not be the best way to go. Just like the goal is to create realism fast and efficient for those drone type high helicopter shots. So how would you tackle lighting when you're lighting such massive areas? So we will take a look at understanding that first in the beginning, and then towards the end of the module, once we have that knowledge, we will jump into the actual final module, which is the lighting module, and then start creating our lights. again, using different video planes and whatnot in order to create realism and animation even inside of the light. So once we have done all of that, we'll also towards the end take a look at exponential fog, and that is what we're going to use in order to amplify the depth of the city. So with that, that marks the end of the first course, and after that you can just preview the short film. Again, the link for that is in the description if you'd like to see it now. And hopefully you have learned something through the main course, but then again, we have even more content to go through. So that's a great little benefit, that if you think that you're only going to make this, but you're not really interested in the cinematics part, meaning the camera work, the rendering, all of that, then this is where the course will stop for you. But if you would like to learn all of those things, that's where you can then click on supporting photorealism through cinematics overview, and that will bring you into the second course here. And in this course, again, after the introduction, the first module, we're going to talk about cinematic camera movement. So this is where all the nitty-gritty of how to animate or operate a CG camera and make it look realistic. There are certain rules, there are certain ideas or certain bullet points that you should keep in mind whenever animating any camera. So that's what we go through and discuss in the beginning, giving you different examples of how camera motion A differs from camera motion B and how one of them looks and feels more cinematic. So this is where all the camera work is, and setting it up in sequencer, how to set up the video planes, because the roadways and all that also need to be ingested into the sequencer and then set up that way. So that's also something that you'll see there in this module. In the next module, we'll take a look at the camera shake blueprint that comes built into Unreal Engine, what the different parameters do, how to create different presets of camera shakes, ingesting them, overlapping two of them to create even more dynamic camera shakes. So that's what that entire module is about. And then the module here called rendering and final touch-ups is what goes through the final post-process workflow. But in the beginning, like I said previously, that this is where you can understand an advanced way to do, well, relatively advanced way to do blinking lights, and the blinking lights will help you bring a lot more realism in your city while also being relatively random, so it's not like they're all blinking at the same time. And once you have finished that, this is where you again go through the final post-process settings, so changing and adjusting anything in the post-process volume to add more realism into your scene, and then eventually rendering it through movie render queues. So a quick breakdown of the way I'm going to render it, and then bringing the render over into Nuke, which is my choice of post-process software, and then doing certain lens effects that you can do in order to add a little bit more realism, doing a bunch of grading and what to keep in mind. So even if you're not using Nuke, you can use the same techniques in like After Effects or DaVinci Resolve or something. So with that, hopefully our short is now done. And then the last module, conclusion, also has a little bit of tidbit towards the beginning where you can take a look at how I procure sounds, how to think of sound as also almost basically a 50% empowering element into your cinematic, as is the visual. So going through how to layer sound effects, and then also look at soundtracks, how to find them or bring them up into your editing process so that you have your final cinematic ready to go. So that officially then marks the end of all the content, and then hopefully by the end you have created a really beautiful cinematic. If you have, then I would be more than happy to see your cinematics. So please tag me. My socials are down in the description, or if you have any questions for that matter, you can also reach out to any of those socials and I can help you out with the course. So now that we're done understanding the different modules that are inside each course, we will now jump into the next part of the video where we will take a look at some key important points that I want to touch up on and let you guys know so that you have an overall smoother course experience. So let's jump into that. So the first thing that I want to talk about are the course files that are utilized in order to follow along with the course. So if you're on the main page, you can scroll down here and you can find the project files section. If you click on the Neo City Mini Kit, that will launch this page where you will find all the different kits that are available for your access and the source files folder. So the three different kits that you see are basically the same kit. They all have the same model. inside of it, but the textures are a different resolution. So they're 4K, 2K, or 1K in size, depending on your hardware specification, or if your computer can handle the higher texture, you can use the 4K. If not, you can like use the lower ones. But other than that, they're identical. So feel free to download whichever one you like and then unzip it and then follow along the exact same way as you see into the actual module. The other thing to take a note of is the source files folder. Now, if you open that up, you'll see that there's a bunch of folders in there and then the text files. So I would say go ahead and first download all of this. Once you have downloaded it, you can open it up and see that inside you'll see these folders, and that's the text file. So let's open the text file first so we can take a look inside. So as it says, we have different folders. The first one to keep in mind is the Windows texture folder. And inside of that are images that I've grabbed from pexels.com, which is a website where you can download images and videos to do like basically anything. You can use it for commercial projects, non-commercial. It's really great website with like beautiful creative content. So that's where I grabbed the actual textured images from. And if you open the folder up, you can see these images are right here. If you open one of them up, some of them have been tiled seamlessly, so they tile either way. And then the reason for that is when you are actually using this in the actual material and you want to tile your window size, you can do that. And all of them have also been set to a power of 2, which means that they can utilize Unreal Engine's map settings. So what I mean by that is if you look at the actual resolution, this is 4K by 4K. Some of them are 2K, for example. So that's what the Windows texture is that you can use in the actual module where you make the window, the nighttime windows. The other thing is the movies folder and the plugins folder. So as the text file says, they should both go inside the project folder. The movies folder should go inside the content folder, and then the plugins folder should be where your U project file is. So let's say in my case, if I open up my project that I have on my disk, you can see I have my U project file set up there. And inside the content folder is where I have pasted the movies folder, and then inside of the actual main project folder where your U project sits, you paste the plugins folder. So the content folder and the plugin folder are next to each other, so don't paste them both inside. The plugins has to be outside. And what is contained in these folders? So let's take a look. So if we go inside the movies folder, you'll see that it contains 4 files, and it's basically 2 files, and one is a clear copy and the other version is the blurred copy. And they're going to be used in order to make the roadways, the actual roads, and then the light that spills from the roads. So that's what these files are. And the other folder is the plugins folder. Now this plugin is the one that's going to be used in order to ingest GIF files and WebP files or any kind of animated textures. And this is created by the author Neil Fang. A huge thank you to him for creating this, because this really speeds up the workflow of having animated content in your scene. So there's different ways of bringing in animated content. You could either bring in through videos, which is what we're doing in the roadways, but the issue is when you have a ton of files that you need to bring in, each file needs a video texture, then you have a video player associated. It's like a whole thing you have to set up for it. When you have like 10 plus files, like tons of like these animated billboards and signages, it gets a little hectic with that. And then on the other side, you can also bring animated content using flipbooks, for example. So you can have image sequences that you can then turn into sprites, and then the sprites then get turned into a flipbook. So again, hundreds and hundreds of image files and sprites and whatnot. It's a lot to work with. So as a result of that, I feel like using GIFs is a lot more easier, because when you ingest them in Unreal Engine using the plugin, you just get a single file and you can put your cursor over it and like move your mouse over, and you can even preview the actual file. When you create your material, you just drag and drop that into the material and it's ready to go. You can create material instances really fast. So that's why I really like this plugin. But if you were to open this up on the marketplace, you can see that this is in the old marketplace, and that's the animated texture with GIF importer. But in here you can see that it's only supported to 4.2 and until 4.6. If you want to use the UE5 version, you can see that there is links to his GitHub down there. And if you click on that link, for example, it will take you to the GitHub, where if you scroll down, this is for, again, the UE4 version. If you scroll down, you can see the UE5 version. These are the links that I've already added inside the README file, so you can find them right there. But if you open up the UE5 version, for example, you can see this is his entire repository, which does get updated slowly over time. But the last version that I was able to make it work with was Unreal 5.1.1. So this is important that if you want to use the GIFs with UE5, that's the version that it will work with that I was able to test, because the course was made a while back, so the files aren't as up to date when it comes to the 5.2 and 5.3. So I was able to make it work. You will find that on the repository here there have been changes where someone else has enabled us to make it work with UE 5.3 and all that. I personally tried and tested it, still didn't work, but 5.1.1 works, and that is what you will see in the plugins folder. So if you go back inside the plugins folder, if you see this version, the animated texture plugin that's already in here, this works with 5.1.1 straight out of the box. So if you were to copy paste this plugins folder into your project and launch it, you can just follow along the modules and then turn it on basically, and then it should work out of the box. But that's something to keep in mind. Now, however, if you do want to use the animated files that I have created, that I'll show you in a second, with something like 5.2 or 5.3, I would recommend to just go ahead and get like an online, like go to an online WebP file to MP4 or WebP file to MOV, because MOVs also support alpha. So you can convert these files to those files and then bring them in that way. But again, like I said, I like the ease of it, so I use the GIF importer. But that's a caveat to keep in mind, that you will be able to use it with 5.1.1. But if you want to wait for maybe the repository will get updated and you will have a working version of 5.3, which Neil did merge someone else who fixed it for 5.3, but again, like I said, I wasn't able to get it working, so we didn't include it into the project. So that's something to keep in mind. But other than that, amazing tool, works flawlessly, so I would highly recommend. Hey guys, so this is Indy from the future. When I was editing the video, I actually found a way to make it work in the latest UE 5.3.2. So if you jump over to Neil's UE5 repository for this plugin, the link for which is in the README file that's packaged along with the rest of the project files. If you open that up and you go over to the issues tab, and down here, if you open the one that I created, the issue that I created back to get it to work in the newer versions, if you click on that one, I actually got a response back from a user called Hephaestus Owl, and this is the user that actually made it work for UE 5.3, and then Neil was able to pull it into the main repository, but I wasn't able to get that version working. It would still give me compilation error when I tried to compile it in 5.3.2. But the user was generous enough to send a pre-compiled version already, so all you have to do is just download this and paste it into your folder and it should work. Now, as much as I am thankful for getting this already compiled so you guys can use it, I would still say use your own judgment and use this file at your own discretion, because this was not compiled by me or Neil. You can use it at your own discretion, but then it works. That's all I can say for now. So big thank you to Hephaestus Owl for compiling it for me. And I downloaded the file, and if you go inside, once you download, you can unzip it, and then there's another zip inside of it. I went inside and I found the animated texture plugin folder. You don't have to go further inside. You can just copy this folder right here, and you can jump in over to your own project. Let's say this is my test project right here. Inside of it, you have the plugins folder, the one that we created before, but then make sure to remove the previous version of the plugin if you're using this in 5.3.2, and then just paste the current one that you downloaded from the user's zip file that was sent. You can paste that right here, and once you do that and you launch this in UE 5.3.2, you should be able to open up without any issues. So here you can see the moment I open that same empty blank project, if I view up here, you can see it says version 5.3.2. And just to make sure the plugin is enabled, go over to your plugins tab and then type GIF, And then you can see right here the plugin is enabled as well. And at this point it should be pretty easy to just go in and find the source files, find the WebP textures that we got before, and then just downloading any one of them and just dragging it directly into your project should work. So you can see right here now it's animating. So this is what the convenience of using GIF files that I was mentioning before. And I just made a quick material instance, so I have a parameter right here. So all I have to do is just drag and drop this in there. So I'm just gonna make this a little smaller like that, and then all I have to do is drag it like that, and it instantly updates. So it is working in 5.3.2 thanks to the user fastest owl. It is not official, so we won't be including this in the actual project files, like bundled in there. So the one in the project files will still only work till 5.1.1, but then now you have a way to make it work in 5.3.2 at your own discretion. So yeah. Now if you go down, you'll see the other things that are in the actual README talk about the WebP folder and what it contains, and those are the actual animated textures. So if I go into WebP, you can see that these are the different advertisements that I've made. I special made these in After Effects for you guys, so feel free to use it in any of your projects, in any kind of cyberpunk, futuristic city, anywhere where you need animated content. You can create all these different logos for like businesses and commercials that are playing. I had a lot of fun creating these. A lot of them were like fake commercials that I created. So for example, like this one is like L'Oreal instead of L'Oreal, or you'll find a lot more funny ones. But again, these are also created using the Pexels videos and then the motion graphics on top. So it did take me a lot of time to make all of this content for you guys, so I genuinely hope that you will enjoy it, because you can use this in any of your projects, and it really brings the city alive to have all of this animating. There's like fake boxing fights, for example. There's like all kinds of really cool content in here. So again, you can convert them to movie files if you want. You don't really have to keep them as the WebP file as I have. But the good thing about WebP files is that they support transparency, meaning the alpha has more than 0 or 1 value. With GIFs, it can either be 0 or it can be 1, kind of like the masked material in Unreal Engine. But with WebP, you can get like 8-bit alpha, so you get like more detail in the actual alpha itself. So it doesn't work for these type of billboards which are rectangular, because like who cares, but there's a lot of them which are like that with transparency baked in, so then you can see behind it. So that's when they're kind of useful. So that's why I have included these WebP files. And then the last thing that the text file talks about is the FBX itself, which is an FBX file. If you import it in any DCC, you'll just see that it's a bunch of rectangles. But once you go into the course and you do the city signage module, you'll understand how you can use the FBX alongside the texture that Kitbash3D has provided with the different like billboards and whatnot, and then how the two connect together. So that's the FBX file. So with that, we have went in and understood how the different folders work. The other thing that I want to talk about is the fact that I usually did the recordings after finishing my full-time day job, and it was like mostly at nighttime, so everyone was asleep in the house. So I wasn't, like, looking back in hindsight, I feel like I wasn't as energetic as I wanted to while recording the courses. So you would hear a lot more like, hey guys, now I'm going to, it'll be kind of like that. So I apologize in advance for the lack of an energetic persona, but I definitely learned a lot making this course. So from now on, I'll definitely keep that in mind, making content in the future to be a little bit more, I guess, lively. But that was the reason I wanted to apologize if it feels slow. There is an option to play it at a faster speed on the player itself in Unreal Engine, so feel free to 2x it if that's the case. And I also like recorded like hours and hours, like 100+ hours of content, like raw content. Then like my 1 TB was like entirely full. Like thank God I can now archive it. But the increase, I 10x'd the speed of like all of this content, so you'll see a lot of time lapses that are actually playing 10 times the speed. but then there are sections in there where I pause and I explain a little bit. So I would highly recommend that when you see the time lapse, do not really like skip through, because you might miss out on like little tips and tricks that I'm giving out while during the time lapse. If I think of something, oh, this is really important for the course, I'll just pause and I'll come back into real time. I'll explain the tip, then it'll go back into like fast forward. So that's why I would say, again, through the time lapse sections, if you want, you can 2x the speed, but then just remember that there are little tips and tricks that are scattered throughout. Because I really know, like, I didn't want to like skip out. There was a discussion about like if we should just cut the time lapse. So basically me saying, okay, now I'm gonna go in and build a city, and then it just ends up like towards the end and be like, okay, I'm done with the city. Like I'm with you guys when I see those kind of tutorials where someone does that, when there's like an input and then they're like, okay, now I'm gonna do this, and then you see the output and you feel kind of cheated, like, what exactly did you do? I wanted to see that. So for that reason, we kept the time lapses in. That's why the length of each module is also a little bit longer, but then hopefully it makes up for the fact that you can actually see me build the city like step by step. And even though it's fast forwarded, you still understand like, oh, the reason behind why he's moving the building this way, or the road goes that way, or the light comes this way. So that's something to keep in mind. Again, 2x speed is as an option if you want to, for the time lapse sections, or just for my speech in general. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I've really poured my heart and soul into this course. I really hope that you guys enjoy it. It was almost like, I would say, like a year or more of my life just into this. So I hope that I've done justice to my original short film, Neon Sins, which again, Neon Sins, Neon Vice, all of that you can find in the description down below. The links to the course are also in the description. If you made it all the way here till the end of the video, thank you so much for being here, for being supported. There are people that like literally messaged me saying that they were waiting for like 2+ years ever since like Neon Sins came out. They were waiting for the course, and a lot of life happened, a lot of other projects happened, and it took a while, but it's here. And I'm so happy that you guys can now go ahead and make your cities, you know. And again, like I said, in the description you'll find all my socials. Feel free to please tag me anytime you make something, or even if you have questions in general. I have a Discord with over 500 members where we all just gather together to like make our own stories. I created the Discord with the intent of bringing like beginners and people entering the 3D like connect with industry professionals, and like I have friends in VFX studios and whatnot. So you can, if you have questions, you have your reels, you have any problem, you can come into the server, ask your questions. If I can't answer them, I'll find somebody, one of my friends or anyone who can answer it for you. So those are the ways you can ask questions. There's also a forum page where you can go in. If you go into the actual main page right here, you can see, if you see right here, there's a thumbs up and a thumbs up if you guys like it, but you see a comment section. If you click it, it actually launches the course in the forums where people have asked questions, and I'm always there to answer them as well. So with all that said, thank you guys once again for watching IndyStry. I'm Indy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.